So hello, class number 5. We are going to be getting into our literature book now. We did a bit of an author study on Nathaniel Hawthorne. You found out a bit of who he was, where he lived, what he did, the things that happened around when he lived. But now we're going to delve into this book. And this book it's not too long, but it's a fairly easy read. For those of you who were reading the book last year, A Tale of Two Cities, the wording and language is much easier. So I think you'll enjoy this. So we are going to first open up your book. Again, it's a wonder book for boys and girls. Open it up to where it says Preface. So we're going to read that first. It's going to give us a little bit of understanding of what this book is about. It says, the author has long been of opinion that many of the classical myths were capable of being rendered into a very capital reading for children. So basically these myths, the Greek and Roman myths, were able to be used to teach children something in reading. In the little volume here offered to the public, he has worked up half a dozen of them with this end in view. A great freedom of treatment was necessary to his plan. But it will be observed by everyone who attempts to render these legends palatable, means able to be done, in his intellectual furnace, that they are marvelously independent of all temporary modes and circumstances. They remain essentially the same after changes that would affect the identity of almost anything else. So it's basically saying no matter how you try to change these stories, you can't change them. You can't really use them for teaching good lessons. He does not, therefore, plead guilty to a sacrilege in having sometimes shaped anew, as his fancy dictated, the forms that have been hallowed by an antiquity of 2,000 or 3,000 years. So he's basically saying he's not trying to make them different, but to just change them so that children can understand them. Now, the person who wrote this, what I'm reading right now, it was written in 1851, so it's they use more antiquated language, which is actually a higher level language. No epoch of time can claim a copyright to these immortal fables. So there's no one who can copyright them. There's no one who can say, oh, you can't change that because that's my story, because they're so old. So they seem never to have been made, and certainly so long as man exists, they can never perish. But by their indestructibility itself, they are legitimate subjects for every age to clothe in its own garniture of manners and sentiment, and to imbue with its own immorality. Or morality, not immorality, but morality, basically saying you can change them and alter them to be able to use them to teach moral stories. In the present version, they may have lost much of their classical aspect, or of all events. The author has not been careful to preserve it, and have perhaps assumed a Gothic or Romantic guise. In performing this pleasant task, for it has been really a task fit for hot weather and one of the most agreeable of the literary kind which he ever undertook, the author has not always thought it necessary to write downward in order to meet with the comprehension of children. He has generally suffered the theme to soar whenever such was its tendency, and when he himself was buoyant enough to follow without an effort. Children possess an unestimated sensibility to whatever is deep or high. Children understand things in the imagination or feeling, so long as it is simple likewise. It is only the artificial and complex that bewilder them. All right, so I'm going to the next page, a wonder book for boys and girls. And here's how we're going to do this. So this book is broken up into 6 different stories. We're going to go throughout these, and in the very beginning, I'm going to teach you how to analyze something. So, to analyze literature based upon the scene, the main characters, the leading idea, and the plot. So, here we have your first paper. It says, A Wonder Book for Girls and Boys, Literary Analysis, and Class 5, Literature 8. So this is what we're talking about. So a scene, what do you think would be a scene? And for this book, we're going to look at the scenes of the stories. You're going to see that this book was written in a way that there's basically a narrator, and it's an older uncle or brother or something that is telling these stories to children. And part of it I'm going to have you read on your own, and then part of it I'm going to read with you. So, the part that it's just the brother and the children reading or talking together, you're going to read on your own. So, so these 6 stories are being, basically in this book, these 6 stories are being told by this older brother, he's or family member, older cousin, that's it, there's a cousin. So the older cousin, his name is Eustace, and he's telling these stories to the children so that they can learn a lesson. So let's actually open up to page 1. Let's see, what page does it start? It actually starts on page 17. And it says Tanglewood Porch right here. I'm going to have you read that part. So from page 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. I'm going to have you read that part. Because that's just the main cousin having a conversation and describing what's going on, but it's something you need to read. But I'm going to focus on this right here. We're going to get into the story part. So I want you to pause the video right now, and I want you to read those few pages. Again, it's not hard reading. You should get through it pretty quickly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe about 10 minutes worth of reading. And then once you've done that, come back and we will get into the first story that he tells, which is called The Gorgon's Head. So pause the video, go ahead and read, and then when you're done reading, we'll come back and get into it. All right, you're back now. You've done the reading. And so let's get into this first story. It's called The Gorgon's Head. So this, again, remember, this is a take on a Greek mythology. And it's not broken up into chapters, so we're going to start by breaking it up into scenes. And remember, a scene, you can tell when there's a scene because there's a major event. Now, not at all times will there be a major event. So you don't always, not every time it goes from one thing to another is it a change in scene. Sometimes there's just what we call a transition, which means something happens from one thing to the next, and there's something in the middle, and we just say it was a transitional, we'll call it a transitional scene. But a major scene, like the scene, has to have a major or main event happen. So we're going to start out, and we'll see how we'll get into the book. So let's read along. Open your book. And again, we're starting on page 24. It says, Perseus was the son of Danae, who was the daughter of a king. And when Perseus was a very little boy, some wicked people put his mother and himself into a chest and set them afloat upon the sea. The wind blew freshly and drove the chest away from the shore, and the uneasy billows tossed it up and down, while Danae clasped her child closely to her bosom and dreaded that some big wave would dash its foamy crest over them both. The chest sailed on, however, and neither sank nor was upset, until when night was coming it floated so near an island that it got entangled in a fisherman's net, and it was drawn on high and dry upon the land. The island was called Seriphus, and it was reigned over by King Polydectes, who happened to be the fisherman's brother. The fisherman, I am glad to tell you, was an exceedingly humane and upright man. He showed great kindness to Danae and her little boy, and continued to befriend them, until Perseus had grown to be a handsome youth, very strong and attractive, and skillful in the use of arms. Long before this time, King Polydectes had seen the two strangers, the mother and her child, who had come to his dominion in a floating chest. As he was not good and kind like his brother the fisherman, but extremely wicked, he resolved to send Perseus on a dangerous enterprise, in which he would probably be killed, and then to do some great mischief to Danye herself. So this king is not very nice. So this bad-hearted king spent a long while in considering what was the most dangerous thing that a young man could possibly undertake to perform. At last, having hit upon the enterprise that promised to turn out as fatally as he desired, so he's wanting to send Perseus on a mission that he'll die. He sent for the youthful Perseus. The young man came to the palace and found the king sitting upon his throne. "Perseus," said King Polydectes, smiling craftily upon him, "you are grown up into a fine young man. You and your good mother have received a great deal of kindness from myself and as well from my worthy brother the fisherman, and I suppose you would be sorry to repay some of it." "Please, your majesty," answered Perseus, "I would willingly risk my life to do so." So he said, "I would willingly risk my life to pay back what you have done for me." "Well then," continued the king, still with a cunning smile on his lips, "I have a little adventure to propose to you, and as you are a brave and enterprising youth, you will doubtless look upon it with great piece of luck to have so rare an opportunity of distinguishing yourself. You must know, my good Perseus, I think of getting married to the beautiful princess Hippodamia, and it is customary on these occasions to make the bride a present of some far-fetched and elegant curiosity. I have been a little perplexed, I must honestly confess, where to obtain anything likely to please a princess of her exquisite taste. But this morning, I flatter myself, I have thought of precisely the article." "And can I assist your majesty in obtaining it?" cried Perseus eagerly. "You can, if you are as brave a youth as I believe you to be," replied King Polydectes with the utmost gracious of manner. "The bridal gift which I have set my heart upon presenting to the beautiful Hippodamia is the head of the Gorgon Medusa with the snaky locks, and I depend on you, my dear Perseus, to bring it to me. So as I am anxious to settle affairs with the princess, the sooner you go in quest of the Gorgon, the better I shall be pleased." "I will set out tomorrow morning," answered Perseus. "Pray do so, my gallant youth," rejoined the king. "And Perseus, in cutting off the Gorgon's head, be careful to make a clean stroke, so as not to injure its appearance. You must bring it home in the very best condition, in order to suit the exquisite taste of the beautiful Princess Hippodamia." So, we're going to stop there. And why do you ask we stop? Because we have actually completed the first scene. So go ahead and get out your paper. We're going to start working through this. Eventually, as we continue in this, you are actually going to be able to recognize these yourself, because you'll be able to recognize what a scene is and what it looks like and what it contains. So go ahead, as I bring up my computer, and look at your paper. All right, computer coming up. And now I have to pull up the right page because it wasn't pulled up. What is going on? No. There we go. Or no, that's not it. Excuse me for one moment. Where are you? There you are. And then we go from there to Well, I'm not finding that. Oh, there it is. And then we go from there to here, and then to here, and then to, where'd you go? Here. Okay, so we're getting into literary analysis. All right, so let's think about this. Let's think about the setting. All right, so make sure you put your name and date, and that you have, and we're writing in cursive. So let's think about what is the setting for this. The main thing that just happened. So let's think about what happened in the book so far. So we were given a little bit of history of how Mom and Perseus got to where they are, right? And that was just a bit of background information. There was nothing necessarily major that happened there. Yes, did she get treated badly? Yes, but that's not necessarily a main event. That's, shall we say, background information or history that sets things up. So we're at a main event right now, okay? And what do you think that main event is? Pierre? What do you think the main event is? The main thing that's happened in here? Well, it's that Perseus is going to be sent on this life-threatening, what's it called? Life-threatening adventure. So, on the top here, I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to stay seated here. We have our page, and at the very top it says Scene 1. So for Scene 1, where is this happening? Where is it taking place? Josh, where do you think it's taking place? The palace. So we'll put, for Scene 1, the palace. So, on Scene 1, right here, on your paper, where it says Scene 1, the palace, because that's where it's happening. That's the scene. Yes. They're at the king's palace. So we put the palace. Now, the next part is main characters. Now, who have been the main characters here so far that we've found something out about? So let's think about all the characters that have been listed so far. So we've got, who is it? We've got Perseus for sure. We've got the king, Polydectes. Then we've got Mom, we've got the fisherman, and we've got then the lady the king is going to marry. So out of all of those, the main portion of what's been happening, who have we been listening to? Isaac, who have we heard most about? Any ideas? It is, number 1, we've got Perseus. We've got Perseus, and this is what we're going to do. For the main characters, we are going to do a description of them. So, in your book, let's open up, to give you an idea, let's open up to page 25. Okay, let's go back a couple of pages. Can you find anywhere that gives a description of Perseus? Emmanuel, did you find anywhere? So if we look on page 25, if you look down to, let's see, what line is that? So it's the third line down. It says, until Perseus had grown to be a handsome youth, very strong and active, and skillful in the use of arms. This is describing Perseus. So you can write that under here. So remember, this is a quote. Whenever we do these descriptions, we use exact quotes from the book. We don't say, oh, he was a strong guy who da-da-da-da. No, if we want to describe Perseus, when we're doing this literary analysis and we're looking at the main characters, we always use quotes to describe them. These are going to be, the leading idea won't be a quote, but the main characters, when we describe them, we'll use quotes to describe them, and also the plot as well. Remember the main thing that happened and then the reason behind it, or the cause, I should say. Cause and effect. So here's one of the main characters, Perseus. So let's see, a handsome youth. So you could stop right there. But then it goes on to say, very strong, da, da, da. So I'm just going to put some dots, right? But I would like for you to continue the description. I'll put some dots, and it goes all the way to where it says, and skillful in the use of arms. So he's all of these things. This is what describes it. And then you would close it with your parentheses, and then, no, close it with your quotation marks, and then parentheses. Remember, it's on page 25, so we need to put page 25, right? There we go. So that's where we start with Perseus. There's also another description on here of Perseus. It's not as long. Can anybody find it? I'm going to give you a second. How else is Perseus described? Excuse me. He is described as a young man. Remember, it's not the start of the sentence, so we do our quotation marks, three dots, quotation marks, and page 25. So this is how we do descriptions of, and the next one you'll do on your own, but on this page where it says main characters, this is what we're going to do. In the setting, not in the whole chapter, the whole book, or anything like that, but just in this setting, how are they described? Now, there's one other main character here. Who knows who it is? Anybody? It is the king. Now, Mr. King is not a very nice man. So we'll say Perseus, and then there is King. Gotta look and see how to spell his name. Polydectes. Now, he is not described as a very nice guy. And I'm going to give you one. There are, let me see. I found 1, 2, 3, 4 descriptions of the king, and they're all on page 25. So sometimes they'll all be on one page, sometimes they'll be on numerous pages, but for this, it's all on page 25. So the first one was, he was not good and kind. So let me make sure, is that the end of sentence? Huh? Let me see. No, it's not. So we did 3 dots. Page 25. So I'm going to have you go through and look and see if you can find the other 3 descriptions of him on page 25. So pause the video, look at that, and I want you to try to find the other descriptions. Remember, wow, that looks really bad. Remember, quotation marks. If it's not the beginning of a sentence, put 3 dots. If it is the beginning of a sentence, make sure you capitalize it. If it's not at the end, put 3 dots. But if it is at the end, use the correct punctuation. And then parentheses with the page number inside of it. So there's 3 more. All right, pause it and go find them. All right, we're back. The next thing we're looking at is leading idea. What is a leading idea? A scene can have multiple leading ideas, right? And they can be either a lesson or just a general concept of what something is. But no matter what, all scenes will have a leading idea. So we're going to look at what some of the leading ideas are. So I'm going to choose one that I picked out as I was reading it. And I picked out this. My leading idea is wickedness. And why did I pick out wickedness? Because number one, I can back it up with quotes from the book. The idea of wickedness, the idea of just someone choosing to desire to be wicked towards someone else. So under leading idea, you can write, I'm going to write wickedness. Let me try it again. Wickedness, right? So leading idea, wickedness. And then it's on page 25, and it's describing the king, and it says, but extremely wicked. Let's actually find it here. I have it written down, and we'll have it in the book. It says, but extremely wicked, he resolved to send Perseus on a dangerous enterprise in which he would probably be killed, and then to do some great mischief to Danae herself. So I'm going to put down, to be able to show that this is being explained in the book, is that, but extremely wicked. So I'm not going to put all of it. So underneath I'll put ... but extremely wicked. And then I will put, what did I write down? And then I did a few more dots. And then youthful Perseus. So in this book is going to bring out, in the past, a lot of books we've done have shown righteousness and goodness, but this book is going to show both good and evil and the consequences of it. In this book, or in this story in particular, you have this king, and from the very start, he is seen and labeled as being very wicked. So, I want you to see if you can find another leading idea, another idea of something that's being taught or shown from this story. And then lastly, we're going to look at plot. I know this video is a little bit long, and I'm sorry for that, but we needed to go ahead and I need to go ahead and introduce you to all of these things, because next time I'll have you do it and it'll be much shorter. So, how about the plot? What is the main thing that's happened? What's the main thing that's happened? So, main thing that's happened, this king is going to send Perseus on a life, could lose his life. He's actually trying to send him to die. So, we're going to put down, I depend on you, my dear Perseus, to bring it to me. And he's talking about the Gorgon's head. So, and that's going to be our main event. And remember, it's got a cause. I depend on you, my dear Perseus, to bring it to me. And that was page 26. So that's our main event in this. And we said in the set, in each scene, there's a main event. This is the main event for this scene. Now, what's the cause? Why did he send him on this? Some people might say, oh, well, he's sending him to get the Gorgon's head, right? Because he wants to give it to the lady he's going to marry. But in actuality, you have got to go back to page 25, probably about halfway down. And it says, he resolved to send Perseus on a dangerous enterprise in which he would probably be killed, and then do some great mischief to Danye herself. So the real reason, and this is what makes the king so evil, is the real reason that he's sending Perseus on this expedition to get him killed is that he wants to do some, what's it say? Great mischief to Danye herself. Remember, Danye is Perseus's mom. So in the end, he's sending Perseus on this mission to kill him off so that he can do something to Perseus's mom, some great mischief. He just wants to get rid of him so he can mess with the mom. That's an evil dude. He's a bad man. So for cause, so underneath this, you're going to write cause. Right? So write cause, and then you're going to write out, on page 25 it says, he resolved to send Perseus on a dangerous enterprise. So I want you to write out the whole quote. I'm just going to write out part of it. My pen is dying. He resolved to, and you're going to go all the way to Danye herself. How do you spell that? A-N-A. Oh my goodness. All right. Whew. And that's going to be it. So I'll scoot this over so you can see the whole thing. But that's the plot. That's the plot for this scene. You've got the main event. You've got the cause. So on this page, you'll be filling that out. On your next one, you have to fill out some of it and read some of it for yourself. So I'm going to wrap that up for today. So again, the scene, right? We're at the palace. Main characters are Perseus and King Polydectes. Our leading idea is wickedness. We see wickedness there. I want you to also see if you can find one yourself. And remember, you've got to put quotes down for it. And then the plot. So the king is sending Perseus on a deadly errand so that his wicked self can form some kind of mischief to make his mom's life horrible. What a wicked man. All right, so that's it. If you have questions, let me know, and talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.